I'd like to welcome everybody to the Virtual Artwalk and the Art of Pickling. I'm Greg Kruegermann. My brother and myself, we run this company. It's the Kruegermann Pickle Company. We're on Gilroy. You probably passed by here. You've probably seen us out in the yard driving the forklifts working if you live in the neighborhood. A lot of you do, I think. We've been here a long time. We grew up in this neighborhood. The business license says we started here in 1965. Well, I think we started a little bit sooner, a little bit under the wire. In other words, back then we got the business going, and then we got our business license, and we've expanded. And this is the original site we're in, but it's expanded left and right to more buildings and more production facilities. Making pickles, making sauerkraut. Sauerkraut tanks is what you see right here. Is it an art? Yeah, it absolutely is. I have to tell you, I'm the last person with my brother that makes sauerkraut the way you see back here. If you look at this is cabbage in tanks fermenting, and if you look on top of those tanks, you see those rocks. Everybody keeps thinking we're into construction. Why do you have all those rocks? Tons and tons of them. Well, that's California blue granite. It's heavy like lead, and we need to weigh the lids down on that cabbage. You can see the green bag coming up. I need to push that down, and I use weights to do that. It takes a couple of days, but as it ferments, it wants to expand, and if you don't have that on there, all of these tanks would be blowing up, and the juice and everything would be everywhere. Doing it this way, yeah, nobody does that anymore. We're the last. We're the last. This is the last place that you see something like this that's handmade, shredded, done the old-fashioned way. But you know what? It's what we learned how to do, and that's what I'm good at, and I still do it while I can. And we have fun doing it. We really have lots of fun doing it. So what you saw a second ago were the tanks sitting there. Now, what happens to those tanks? Well, when the sauerkraut is ready, we do bottle lots of it. A lot of it we sell to restaurants in bulk quantities. But when we bottle it, we'll bottle it on this side of the factory. Now, all the equipment isn't set up right now because we don't bottle it for another couple of weeks, but the basics are here. You have a bottle filler right here, which fills some juice in the bottles. The bottles will go along this conveyor belt to this fill table. On this fill table, bottles will go around the circle and they will get filled. They will actually get filled by hand, and to make sure that they're the right fill height, and double checked and made sure they're clean. No cabbage hanging over the lip of the bottle, because when that lid goes on there and that's hanging over there, quality control. No, you don't want that. Doesn't look good. So as we go, the bottles will be going down this conveyor right here, and they'll go into our very first building, which was this room and another room next door, which is the ice box. But the bottles will come down here, and this would be the capping station. The lids get put on by machine in a steam vacuum so that the lids have a vacuum on it, and the jar is sealed, and it's also tested. There's testers there to make sure they're sealed properly. Jars that are not sealed properly do get kicked out automatically. As we go through here, like I said, nothing is set up. The hoses are laying around a little bit, but in a week or two, all of this will be running. As we go through here, the jars will end up going into a pasteurizer, and the pasteurizer basically seals these jars in a natural way. We don't have any additives, no preservatives, nothing in there. It's a very natural way to seal something they did in the old days, and that we still do today, and very few other companies do. So the jars will go into this machine, which is a very long conveyor belt in a very warm environment. Not boiling, you're not cooking the product, you're heating it up to about 180, 190 degrees and keeping it there for about a half hour. That will seal the jar and make it last. It will be shelf stable, doesn't need to be in a refrigerator until you open it. And the day you open it, it'll taste exactly like the day that I made it. The jars will go through this machine, the length of the machine. This is an hour and a half, 2 hour process right here. And when they come out of the machine, they loop around, come back, and this would be the labeling station. So when the whole operation is running, it is quite interesting to see it go from start to finish. And at the very end, you have your palletized product at the end, and then you store it in the warehouse. So it's a long day. It's a lot of work, but it's very, very rewarding, I would have to say. There's this little satisfaction in seeing all this work and having something at the end of the day that you said you put a lot of effort in with quite a few other people, and it's a best product you could make, and I think it's one of the better products on the market. Okay, so be honest with me. Now, I take a couple steps back and I look at those labels and I look at those products. I think they're beautiful. I think they're fabulous. I think the labels, they're funky labels, but everybody knows our labels. Yeah, should they be redesigned? What do you guys think? I don't know, but look at that, look at that. The red beets, the color, the sauerkraut, little pickles. Look at those little pickles. Beautiful, the bread and butter chips, sliced pickles, spicy pickles, salads. There's still a few things missing up here, but red cabbage, one of them. Fermented pickles, sour dills. We have the kosher dills in big buckets that the delis use. And Oktoberfest sauerkraut. We have a lot of that. Anyhow, I don't know. I think it's artsy. I think it's pretty. Well, one of the most interesting things about this neighborhood, and it is Frogtown, is how it's changed over the years from when I was younger to what it is now. The Frogtown Artwalk, going the last 12 years, since that happened, I have to say the neighborhood has really morphed into something else, something I would have never expected years ago. It's expanded. The first few years it was just down in a certain area, and that was interesting, that was cool. It was strictly the artists down there, but food and other things being sold became kind of interesting and kind of became part of the art walk. The art walk expanded. It came to my end of Frogtown here, where the bakery is. And, you know, there's a brewery down the street, and the brewery, the coffee shop, the pickle factory. You know what? We're all kind of artists in our own way, yeah, in the food world. And I like that the art walk has expanded and really brought the community together. It's really nice to know all the other business people here. It was always like that in Frogtown. All the businesses knew each other. In fact, all the people in the neighborhood knew each other back then too, because they all worked at the businesses around the neighborhood. Well, now the art walk is bringing us together because the neighborhood has changed. People in the neighborhood don't really work at a pickle factory. They have other things. The neighborhood has changed for the better. Will it get better? I think it should get better. We do have some major problems, and not that I need to get into them, but they really need to be looked at and solved. But I think we're on our way. I think this is good, and as soon as this coronavirus, I do have a mask, I do wear my mask, but I couldn't do this interview, so cameraman's far away, don't worry. I think we'll get through this, and the brewery, the pickle company, the coffee shop, the artists, everybody in the neighborhood will be on the streets again. We'll be visiting each other in person within a couple of years. I would expect that, and I hope so. Always the optimist. Thanks for visiting the pickle company.